So
All right.
welcome everyone to our editor kickoff call. It's been really exciting the last couple of weeks. Just from the one tweet from Brian, I think we had like 130 interviews so far for editors, and we have 88 people in our private editors Slack channel right now. So that's, I think pretty solid for just like a couple of weeks worth of like organization to get things started. And then thank you everybody for showing up today and for all the contributions you've made so far. The Slack channel is like exploding, which is very exciting. So everybody posting there, like it looks so lively. And even the website, like I think our user numbers have like tripled or quadrupled over the past couple of weeks. So I think this is really headed in the right direction. And I'm like super grateful for everybody's excitement and time kind of contributing to the program so far. So yeah, to kick things off here, I just wanted to take a second and talk about Research Hub's mission. Our mission is to accelerate the pace of scientific research. There's a lot of different ways that we could go about this. And one thing that we feel like really strongly about is having a democratic, decentralized governance around this mission, because there's many different pathways that we could take to accelerate the pace of science. And so the number one most important thing for the first month or two of the editor program is to have everybody contribute like their thoughts and feedback on Research Hub and the program in general. So that way we can start to zone in on like the best pathway to like feasibly accelerating the scientific research in both like short, medium, and long terms. So yeah, with that being said, thanks again for everybody being here. And I'll turn things over to Anton. If you haven't met Anton yet, he's probably like our most active community member of all time. Anton and I met maybe like over 2 years ago, and he's been contributing like a lot on a weekly basis since then. And so he stepped up to take a leadership role for the community. So if you have any questions about the editor program, want to help out more, Anton's the person to go to, and he'll be able to point you in the right direction on how to best do that. So thank you, Anton. I appreciate you leading this.
Yeah, no problem. Really excited to see so many people here. So my role here is just to facilitate and make your life easier on all fronts. And we have a little bit of an agenda for today, but nothing tenuous. We'll talk a little bit about the expectations and feedback. Everything is very much up in the air right now. It's up to us to build culture and expectations as a group. Then we'll talk about some of the community representatives. We have a few of the more active users who are taking role in taking over some of the aspects of the editor program or Research Hub in general of the community. They will introduce themselves. And then we'll have a Q&A session with where you can ask questions and we'll answer. And we have a few of the questions already queued from yesterday, but most of them you will ask on the fly. All right, so in terms of expectations, like I said, very, very flexible at the moment. The high-level goal, of course, is we want more users, we want more organic conversations, we want more content on the website. Therefore, your responsibilities as editors would be basically, first of all, a moderator, right? So removing spam, inappropriate content. Whenever in doubt, Slack channel, the editor channel is a very helpful place to discuss for us as a group, maybe come up with a consensus whether something should be removed or should stay, things like that. In terms of content generation, there are many things you can do, but for example, posting papers, posting comments, explaining said papers, replying to other users. If you have explored the website, you might have discovered the hypothesis feature where you can make a claim. For example, I don't know, video games lead to violence or something. And then you can make lists of papers that either support or reject said claim. And then based on the upvote, it will generate kind of the social consensus on the matter. And obviously, you can upvote things you like to see, downvote things you don't like to see, so that we can set up the culture for what kind of content is welcome on Research Hub. Me personally, I'm a big believer in the quality over quantity. So maybe that's my opinion personally, but I find it more engaging for users if you post a paper and you kind of like leave a short comment, maybe describing in layman's terms what this paper is about, so it's accessible for users outside of your area of expertise, and maybe start a conversation and discussion. The expectations right now not clear. It's up to us to decide. my personal suggestion is try to maybe work in the weekly time frame, not daily. We had previous programs where people would try to contribute every day, and you might imagine that leads to pretty high burnout rate. So check on ResearchHub occasionally, frequently, but don't hesitate to take days off and stuff like that. All right, so the expectations will be formed based on your own contributions and suggestions. So if Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, but perhaps at the end of month 1, right, we can have a summary of activity from all editors, and then we will be able to see the average picture of what is considered the norm of how many contributions are expected and stuff like that. At the early stage, not exactly. You don't have specific plans for what to do with underperforming editors, which I'm sure, since you all are here, you are more engaged than a typical user. So I don't anticipate that being a big problem. But in the future, perhaps, like Patrick said, we are pushing the decentralized governance, and maybe in the future we can develop a system where the users get to decide what editors should stay, what editors should perhaps step down temporarily or permanently, and the other users should try to do these responsibilities. It's up in the air, but we are working on it. And actually, you feel free to contribute to this discussion on Slack or DM me, however it works for you. We like being developed as a result of the community feedback. So yeah, the compensation part, maybe Patrick, you could help me a little bit with that. It's 3,000 USD per month at the last day of each month, deposited in form of the research coin to the editor's ResearchHub account. Patrick, can you explain the conversion rate and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So the way this will work for the first month, definitely, and maybe the second month as well, is on January 31st, we'll look at the market cap of Research Coin. It's actively traded on Uniswap right now. If anybody has any questions, they can ping me later on how to see that. And we'll divide the market cap by the number of tokens that would represent 3,000 USD. And then we'll credit individual editors' ResearchHub accounts. At that point, you'd be able to withdraw tokens into your own Ethereum wallet and then pretty much do whatever you wanted with them. Currently, the marketplace on Uniswap is not very liquid, so it would be difficult to exchange like all $3,000 immediately, especially if everyone wanted to do it at the same time. There are some community-led initiatives in order to try and help this situation, so we'll be talking a little bit more about that later. But if anybody has any questions on kind of the mechanics of how this works initially, feel free to ping me. Happy to jump on a call and explain later. We plan on building software tooling around this too. So in the future, payments will be automated and made on like a daily basis based on that day's market cap, because a lot of times like token projects, there tends to be significant volatility during the early stages. So we'll try and keep it like daily true to whatever the market cap of Research Coin is. Cool. Anton, is that a good description, do you think?
Yeah, and I think we will keep crowdsourcing the details, and we will, in my vision, perhaps we will have concrete set of instructions. What can you do with REC? How what operations you can do, how you can transfer it, and stuff like that. That would actually be a good place to know to know the ELN, our shared document space on ResearchHub. If you're not on it yet, please send me a message on Slack or respond to the comment I left in the editor channel, and I'll add to it. It currently doesn't have the commenting functionality, so we make do with italicized comments. So whenever you feel like you're lacking information on some aspect of your work here in ResearchHub, just leave a comment, and we will try to work around it and weave the instructions that might be lacking at the moment. And obviously, some of you might not be as crypto savvy as others. So for these users, we will also have a section kind of like, explaining what is going on and how to deal with it. All right, so that would be a good place to start introducing our community representative team. in no particular order. Whoever wants to make yourself known, go ahead.
I can start. Thank you, Anton. Thank you, Patrick, for the introduction as well. Hi, everybody. I'm Ricardo. I'm a PhD student at the Polytechnic University of Milan. My research basically lies at the intersection between medicine, material science, and electronics. I develop biosensors for healthcare applications. So here I am the biosensing editor. So, the biosensing hub is brand new, so it's not really populated. I'm working on it. But yeah, if your research, lies in this kind of like the sensing space, feel free to stop by the hub. Here at ResearchHub, I also take care of the outreaching activities. So at the first stage, that will mainly deal with basically sending out emails to prospective users or authors of papers that are on ResearchHub. So basically, if you had an idea in the past of reaching out to somebody, feel free to send me a message if you want to discuss how to make it in a way that is aligned with like the ResearchHub kind of like community mission and so on. Just ping me, shoot me a message, and we can discuss that further.
Yeah, just to provide a little bit of context to Ricardo's role. So this outreach, it might be not necessarily your specific goal for the first month, unless you would like to pick up this goal, because right now there are no direct measurements of your impact on the hub growth. However, in the future, we do potentially foresee situations where you get bonuses based on the growth of your hub, and that would be the place where maybe you become more interested in recruiting more of your peers and colleagues. And even now we have a feature called Pots of Gold, where if you upload a paper and that's offered by someone who is not currently on ResearchHub, they actually get the RSC associated with the paper accumulates over time until they register on the website, and they get to claim all the RSC, however much value it has at the time when they register on the website. So that would be perhaps a useful tool for you to maybe incentivize people to log into ResearchHub if you decide to follow that route. All right, who wants to go next?
Sure, I can hop on. So my name is Jeffrey Corey. I joined the editor program probably about a couple of weeks ago now. So I'm in the neuroscience hub. So I'm a PhD student currently. I'm in my 4th year at UC Riverside in the biomedical sciences PhD program there. And my research right now focuses on the intersection of neuroscience and inflammation and virology. So looking at some of the neurocognitive aspects of HIV infection and a little bit into COVID, neuro-COVID now. Yeah, so I'm also involved with kind of the structuring and fleshing out some of the concepts of the DAO, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And so kind of the benefit of this and a use case for the research coin is going to be your RSC can be used to vote on different proposals. So right now we're working on setting up a framework for that, where your research coin either on the website or in your MetaMask wallet will be used to vote on proposals that kind of some of the editors can put together, but we will hear from the community, aggregate all of that information together to generate a proposal that would be beneficial to the protocol or the project. And then any community member with research coin can go ahead and vote on that. And so there's a little bit of some like tokenomics that will go into that as well. And so if you have any questions, kind of echoing what Patrick said about like how to use MetaMask wallets or any wallet for that matter, please feel free to message me. I love talking about this stuff. And so yeah, generally that's what I'm up to.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. Basically, the REC has twofold value, right? So first, it represents the monetary value in itself, but then again, it has a utility where it gives you voting rights to the proposals that you yourselves can draft and other people can draft. and basically you get to have an active role in shaping the path of ResearchHub, which I personally find very exciting. Hope you too. Right, we have Lee and Scott, I think, left.
Yeah, I'll start. So hi, everyone. I'm Leland Rogers. I am finishing up my PhD in cognitive psychology, and I'm mainly going to be involved with reaching out to the editors with surveys and questions, sort of getting feedback that we can aggregate and analyze, and hopefully foster a community that is constantly listening to itself to make any adjustments that need to be made. And in fact, at the end of this meeting, I'm going to be posting a very brief survey on the editor's channel on Slack. So keep an eye out for that. Just a few very brief questions after the meeting's over. And hopefully we can continue on by reaching out. I can reach out to the editors and ask some questions, get some feedback, and make sure that everyone feels like they're being heard. And we can address any questions that are pervasive throughout the community, something that everyone has in mind that maybe we need to address as a whole. So yeah, and then from there, I will pass off to Scott.
Hi, everyone. So I'm working on the growth aspect and about myself. So I'm a criminology professor at Georgia State, which is in Atlanta. But really what I've been focused on for 2 or 3 years now is just open access stuff, specifically open access in criminology. So like I'm a journal editor of a Diamond Journal. You may know what that is. I'm a repository director, Crim Archive, set that up, and I'm basically the moderator for that. And so I've learned a lot of stuff from that, and I've done a lot that just didn't help and didn't do anything. And so what I'm hoping to do with all y'all is pass along some of my suggestions to see if those are things you want to pursue. Just as an FYI, like I always try to set up things that take an hour to set up, but then more or less can run themselves, because we'll have a lot of momentum early on, but people burn out, they get other interests. So it's all about kind of what's sustainable and what's really going to get you the most for your time, which is precious. On the same side of that, we really want you to experiment and try things and just follow your instinct and see what works. That's super welcome. And just, I guess my only request on that is when you do that, just be very conscientious of like treating it like a scientific study of like, what exactly are you trying to get people to do, and how will you know if they did it, and how will you measure, somehow roughly or specifically, what your strategy, how do you tap into that to see whether they're related. So that's really important, just for, it's important when you do stuff, you just want to know if you were wrong or if you were right, just not based on your gut. And so with that, looking forward to working with all of you.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we actually do plan to add more experimenting tools, right, with the dashboard where you can get more insight into the analytics of your hub, right, what works, what doesn't work. Maybe you want to try to experiment with incentives. All those plans are on the table, and if you would like to enact them, let's discuss in the Slack channel, in the editor channel. Right, I think this is everything we have on the agenda, and we can move on to the Q&A section, unless, Patrick, I'm missing something.
No, that looks good to me. Thanks, Anton.
Right, so feel free to ask questions now. You can type it. You can just speak up if no one's speaking, or we can start with the 2 questions that were posted in the Slack channel, if that works.
Yeah, let's start with those. And I think there's a hand raising feature here too, so we can like have people raise hands, and Anton, you can call on them.
Sounds good. All right, so the first question that was posted in Slack is basically what would be the easy way to convert the REC into cash, right? If the editors want to use it right away, how would they go about it?
Yeah, so currently there isn't a super easy way to do that. If anybody's familiar with Uniswap, it's a decentralized Ethereum exchange. We have a marketplace set up there where the liquidity is something like $2,500 at the moment. It moves with the price of Ethereum. So people have in the past traded, I think, up to like $500 worth of research coin, but it'll move the price significantly. Slippage is what they call it, just due to the low liquidity. With that being said, though, I know Jeffrey has some plans to help address that. So maybe, Jeffrey, do you want to talk for like 2 seconds and maybe plug the call later today?
Yeah, totally. So we have a call that's going on. Sorry, there's like some stuff going on outside my house, but we have a call going on. It's going to be actually tomorrow at 5 p.m. I can put it in the link in the comments. So as Patrick mentioned, one issue we have right now is there's low liquidity on these decentralized exchanges, such as Uniswap. And so I think, what we'll discuss later today, but some of the thought process for that is we need a way to bootstrap some liquidity, to get liquidity on there for people to actually be able to transfer their coins, especially $3,000 worth from each editor is now a substantial amount of money. So we have some plans on how to go about that. We just want to get community input and iron out some of those kinks. And then, so just for reference, one thing that we're thinking about is right now the liquidity pair is research coin with Ethereum. So that means that you can swap your research coin for Ethereum coin, and then maybe do something like move your Ethereum onto your Coinbase account and then sell it from there. But I think what we're going to try to push as an initiative is the research coin to USDC liquidity pair. And I think this makes sense because for crypto non-native people, I think having a USDC stable coin to reference your research coin in will make a lot more sense. And I think if anybody has a Coinbase debit card, you'd easily be able to swap your research coin to USDC, move that into your Coinbase account, and just use your Coinbase debit card to make transactions and things like that. So these are all ideas that I think Anton may have posted the link in the chat. So please, if you have any input or just want to listen, come through to that, and then we can have a good, thorough discussion.
So basically, just to reiterate, there are multiple solutions, right? And basically guarantee that by the January 31st, another one will be implemented. That right? Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions kind of on that topic before we move on?
Drew has a raised hand.
Yeah. So it's more not really like a question about what you said, Jeffrey, but have we ever considered like maybe this may be off topic, but like releasing like an NFT project just to like bootstrap some cash? Because I feel like that might be a decent way to get some like early money. And I've been seeing some projects raise like honestly like millions within like a couple months of just like promoting the project, and maybe using like the editors to like reach out on like to like different Twitter communities, to get word out about the project, and maybe like getting some devs on the team to help out with like building that out might be another way to think about it. Yeah, that was kind of more of like a proposal or a question, like have we considered that?
It's a great idea. We've talked about it a little bit internally. I think there's some really cool things we could do, just kind of like combining art and science. There are hesitations on our end because sometimes like I think it can appear as like a quick cash grab, which it sort of is. So like there's reputational thoughts to think of. But we do have like within the next year plans to help authors mint NFTs around their own research projects. So maybe to help like communities of researchers raise funding on ResearchHub more so than like the ResearchHub community. But if this is something that people in the DAO are passionate about and want to make happen, then we can totally do it. And we have like a little bit of a playbook on how we could do it. So yeah, Drew, if that's something that you think would be cool, then let's rally the troops around it. And if enough people are excited, then we can try and make it happen.
Awesome.
Cool. Does anybody else have questions on this, or should we move to the next question?
Great. Yashar?
I just wanted to suggest whether we sort of could kind of decide as a community that we should have a vested period. So let's say we're going to get the coins and then we're going to have them locked in our accounts or not having access to them for like a couple of months, because I just imagine the overwhelming majority of us, we do this thing because we're interested in this project. We want this project to go forward, and we're interested in open access in general. So I think we're not here for making a buck necessarily. I hope I'm not. I hope a lot of, and not so, like not so many people are here for money. So we could just kind of hold on to the tokens, to the coins, and wait for a very good solution to come up out of all these discussions in this call or outside of it.
So this is also a super interesting thought. Thanks for sharing it, Yash. So I have kind of like two trains of thought in my brain here about this that go in opposite directions. And the first is that like I totally agree that like in order to have the community succeed initially, like people can like financially demonstrate their commitment by locking up tokens. For instance, like this is a little bit of a different scenario, but our whole ResearchHub team has vesting schedules and lockups, kind of for that exact same purpose. So I think there's something cool there. I think it should be like, this is an incentives-based project. So maybe there should be an incentive for people to do that, not just like, moral support. So I think there's some cool things we could like learn from DeFi projects and how to reward people for locking up their tokens. But I think it's an interesting concept that we should talk more about. Another piece of this, though, that I think we should be very conscious of is like one of the use cases of why I initially started working on a project like this was I was sitting in like a wet lab in grad school, and I was just wasting time on Reddit, like in between waiting for experiments to run. Like I was doing like protein isolations. There'd just be like 40 minutes where I had nothing to do, and I would just be on like Reddit hockey or whatever. And so I thought like it would be amazing if somehow I could take that 40 minutes and turn it into 10, 15 bucks, by like contributing my specialist knowledge in a way that I could earn enough money to be able to then go get like a sandwich after work. So like, I think like there's a wide range of different financial situations and people in this community. And I don't know if there should necessarily be social pressure on people to lock tokens up, in order to support the project. Like that feels like it's feasible for some people, but it might not be for others. And I don't know if that, I think it's a complicated issue. So that's kind of, I have two conflicting trains of thought there. And I think it's worth exploring more to see if there's like a consensus among community members about what the best way to move forward would be.
Yeah, I think if we just set up, so it depends if the plan is to just have payouts be at the end of every month, then that could kind of present like a sell pressure like cliff at the end of every month if people just wanted to sell it, and then use it. But if we do transition maybe into like a more continual payout, so kind of like if it ends up being like every week or every day even, continuously, then that kind of diffuses that issue. And then also, as long as, I think if we set up incentive structures that would disincentivize people from really wanting to, or like selling whatever they would need, but keeping some things like having voting power, having maybe like a staking feature where you could earn more research coin by holding it. One of actually the liquidity fixes that we're shooting for, which is the Olympus Pro, actually would lock up a lot of liquidity that way, and it incentivizes people because they'll get research coin at a discount by locking in their liquidity. So these are a few things I think if we play the incentives right, kind of would disincentivize people from really pulling out some of their research coin.
Okay, do we have more questions on the matter, or do we move on? So another question posted in Slack was concerns about maybe switching to the Web3 login system from the Google authentication right now because of the security advantages. Patrick, can you comment on that?
Yeah, so this is probably the number one piece of feedback that we've gotten. If you guys want to take a look, it's pretty funny. Like there was a Hacker News thread maybe like 6 or 7 months ago where somebody shared ResearchHub kind of organically, and like we got a lot of criticism for just having the Google sign-in, which I think is fair because, yeah, I think people like to be in control of their own data, especially in Web3 communities. So the reason why we chose a Google login is because like user data management is difficult and requires a lot of effort. And so Google login is like a very streamlined way for us to like have like individual user accounts without a lot of the baggage that comes in associated with like securing that information. So yeah, that is to say that this is something we plan to fix. I don't know exactly where it is on our roadmap, but if enough people think that this is a big deal, then we can definitely do something about it. Kind of like on this topic, we plan to use Snapshot to help like facilitate DAO voting, which is an off-chain like polling tool that can basically see how many coins you have in your Ethereum wallet and then allow you to vote without having to pay gas fees. In order to help make it more equitable, we plan to write some custom code that actually associates Ethereum wallets with ResearchHub user accounts. So that way you'd be able to vote with tokens that you have in your account that you have not yet withdrawn to your Ethereum wallet. So we'll have to, in order to do that, we'll have to figure out a way to integrate Ethereum wallets into ResearchHub, like to be associated with each individual's account. So that could be a good opportunity to try and like also build in an Ethereum wallet login system. We've been talking about this a decent amount, and this is totally something where if everybody got together and we got like 30 likes on a post in the Slack group saying, hey, we need Ethereum wallet logins now, we'd be able to prioritize it and get it done within probably a month. But yeah, so that is to say, this is a common piece of feedback that we've heard, which we've put off so far. But if it's like a priority to like our most important users, then we can definitely build something around it.
Aiden, you have a question? Or not?
I think he might have dropped off.
Oh, we can't hear you. I think you might be muted. Or the mic is off.
Scott makes an interesting point here as well about pseudonymity on ResearchHub. We've had a couple of editors who have basically asked like if it's okay not to use their real name as editors, just due to potential like risk in their own personal careers. And my opinion is that that's very cool. And eventually we'll have to figure out some way to tie real world reputation to a pseudonym. But PubPeer is a project that has had a lot of success where it's basically just anonymized peer reviews of papers. And their founder actually like was anonymous for the first, I think, like 4 or 5 years of its development, just because he didn't want any like career backlash. I think he was a PI somewhere and was scared of like, what would happen to him just for creating a tool that allowed for transparent feedback on papers. So yeah, that is to say, clearly pseudonymity is important to a lot of people in academia. And it would be interesting to hear what everybody's thoughts here are on like allowing editors or users of ResearchHub to not use their real names and to potentially somehow tie that together to like a real person's profile, whether it be through ORCID or some kind of manual review, but having the username itself not tied to someone's actual identity.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That comment. So this actually ties into what I was going to say is I think it's interesting to think about the incentive structure for people, not just for, like grad students or whatnot that are going to come here and source out interesting papers. But when you think about the PIs, right? And one thing that I've noticed the different universities I've worked in, crossing over to industry, there's definitely like generational gaps, right, in the adoption of different technologies, Web3, tokenomics, and so forth being one of them. So I think, whatever you guys choose to go about with the logins or whatnot, the anonymity issue, there's going to be PIs that maybe we want to come in and start contributing or doing AMAs. They're going to have zero interest in the actual tokens, the research coin and whatnot. It's not to dismiss it. I think it's an important part of the project, but they're more here to amplify their research and to disseminate knowledge rather than to make some money, right? Like labs with millions of dollars of funding won't necessarily want to onboard something like MetaMask to then take out, a handful of dollars and whatnot. So anyway, I think it's important to think about well because they can provide a lot of value into the hubs. And certainly, if you had an AMA and you had like reasonably famous scientists coming in and doing this, they would be hopefully broadcasting this on their social channels and whatnot. So just to stay mindful of the non-tech savvy people in science as well.
And so to repeat that back to make sure I'm understanding properly, you think essentially having a Google login is a good thing, or maybe like some kind of traditional like email-based login, Twitter or something, just to make it easier for people?
100%. Yeah, Twitter is actually an interesting one because I see a lot of scientists trying to get on Twitter, and whether they're active or not, I think they at least monitor there. So one thing like we had been talking about in the Cognitive Science Hub is like once we get some activity, we can bring in some people to do AMAs. One person I suggested, he was my mentor when I was at the University of California. He's the guy that first demonstrated place cells in the human hippocampus. He's worked with, just world famous neurosurgeons and whatnot, and is really like a world-class neuroscientist. He would come in and do an AMA if I suggested, but I can really see the technology gap in someone even of his tenure, and he's in his late sort of 40s, right? When we get up to these more senior scientists in the 60s and 70s and stuff, they may be curious about crypto and Web3 and whatnot, but I would be skeptical that a lot of them have a lot of buy-in at the level where they go through and set up all of this stuff just to get an AMA, right? We should be conscious of their time and really facilitating the onboarding for them, so they don't get confused or frustrated or whatnot. So maybe the crypto login's great, but maybe think about a secondary one for some of these more edge case people, but potentially highly important to activity here.
It's an amazing point because at least in my own customer research, like early career researchers, they totally get what we're going for and they're on board for the long-term vision. But some more established PIs who have like had success, in the current academic incentive structure, tend to be more skeptical. So making it as easy as possible for them to use ResearchHub is crucial in order to get adoption. Lee, one thing that could be interesting when you're doing editor interviews and getting feedback is to try and split editors into like who's like crypto native, who's like familiar with Ethereum wallets, stuff like that, and who came to ResearchHub with like, totally new to crypto, and like really focusing in on what value propositions like brought people who are not crypto native to ResearchHub and how we can like provide information in order to like help attract more people like that. Because I think that is the grand majority of scientists. And so understanding those perspectives, what works, what doesn't work, is going to be like pretty crucial for us to grow.
Sounds good. I'll put that in the first survey.
Cool. Thank you.
Scott, you have a hand?
I was just going to say, so that was a really interesting comment. You just kept saying things that I wanted to like make a note to and write down. But just on the growth thing, a few things that I thought along the way is one, getting people to do anything is extraordinarily hard. And so if you've been in administration or I suppose some kind of equivalent job, it's almost impossible. So like being conscientious of those very things, like just asking people to make an account is like really hard in terms of getting them to do it, no matter how rational it is. So just really lowering the bar. But to that point, like some people won't be interested in the crypto, or even will be averse to ResearchHub because they don't understand crypto. Like I find that a lot with open access generally, is the people who understand it are all in. The people who don't understand it are like meh at best. But there's a lot of people who think open access is like predatory journals. And so I have to like walk them back the opposite way. So you may experience the same on crypto. And then just a final thought, like a saying I've come up with, I guess, for ResearchHub is get paid for doing what you're already doing. And so I think that's really at the same time the big selling point of, you're already doing all of these things and you can make better time. So Patrick had that story early on of, downtime can become uptime. So just at the same time walking them in that direction where they understand this is a thing and it's not going away and it's a big deal, are really interesting challenges. And I want to hear, I think everyone wants to hear, just like when you have those problems or those successes, just let us know what they are so we can, use that material too for our own purposes.
I think the narrative that you keep doing whatever you're already doing, but with more benefits, is a great one that we should explore. And the onboard into the ResearchHub for people who are not crypto native should focus on that 100%, right? Because people are already reviewing papers, people are already taking notes. Why not post these notes so we can discuss them publicly, right? That's content for us. That's discussion for you. That's REC for you.
I think for the doing the pseudonymous, like a hybrid system sounds cool. Having some people want to be pseudonymous while others use their Google account. I think that kind of covers bases for most people. The only thing that I would have, like, I don't see a way off the top of my head that somebody who wants to remain pseudonymous can link anything of their current like publications or Orchid account without doxing themselves. So I don't see any like incentive for anybody to really want to go pseudonymous on here if they have to link those. The only thing I could think of is if they just want to create hypotheses, upload other people's publications, maybe earn research coin through some of their comments, and then go back to their MetaMask wallet without linking anything of the real world kind of into it. That's the only kind of scenario I could see someone who wants to stay pseudonymous that would actually be able to stay pseudonymous in that regards. Does anyone have any comments on that?
So I think the way that this would probably work is there would be some central point of like, yes, this person is who they claim they are. So they'd have to hop on a call with someone from the team or someone from the DAO in order to say like, hey, this new user who is now pseudonymous is actually this real person. And then we'd have some kind of manual check in order to like confirm that they are that person. And then, so there's data security issues there, because there will probably be like some information on our back end that we'll have to protect. But I think there are ways to do it where like it's not like totally pseudonymous, but it just the identities can be known by like one or two people, and then in our back end.
Right, we are open for more questions. Doesn't need to be about the DAO or the REC, maybe just about general operations in the editor program.
Do we have any idea of when editors will be receiving their allowance to reward users for comments and uploading papers and all that stuff?
So I think we're going to get started without that portion. If editors think that this is something that would be valuable, then we could add it in the future. There's a little bit of like technical development that would need to happen in order to do that. Basically just making sure that editors weren't able to withdraw it and that it had to stay within the system and had to be rewarded within a certain amount of time. So that's like non-trivial from an engineering perspective. And so, yeah, to get started, I think we can like still collect feedback and figure out what's working well. But in the future, if that's something that people thought would be cool, we could also build it in. Another thing which I think is worth describing is Anton a little while ago put together sort of like a bespoke experiment on different incentives. in order to like collect data that might inform like ResearchHub's actual reward structure in the future. So we called this the Power User Program, and it was basically like a completely community-led initiative in order to explore how to more or less cause more discussions on ResearchHub. And so like discussions were heavily incentivized, secondary responses to questions were heavily incentivized. And if other people have ideas of like kind of similar bespoke programs that they'd like to try and figure out on their own, we'd love to support that. So more so than like editors like having pots of RSC to give out to what they feel is valuable, that could be done in the future. But in the meantime, if people want to play around with their own kind of custom incentive structures, that will collect data that could eventually be used in ResearchHub's main reward structure that's used for every user, I think that'd be really cool. So yeah, just keep an open mind there. And if you have any questions, feel free to ping Anton, and he can kind of like let you know how he operated his Power User Program, provide insight there.
Yeah, 100%. There are current engineering efforts going on making it more possible, right? So more of the summary tables, more of the, the arrange the users you're checking kind of thing. So I would advise to maybe not go super hard on that right now for editors, unless you're willing to, put in a lot of time into that. But I do see in the future, initiatives like maybe some sort of bounty program, right, where you want maybe a certain paper to be summarized, right, or maybe you want a certain hypothesis to be maybe you want to put together kind of like a review, right, and you are willing to give out X amount of REC to users who are willing to do it, according to your quality standards. And that tasks can be different from hub to hub, different from editor to editor. It's crazy. It could be crazy and crazy good as well, right? So that's so much experimentation, but we also will need a systematic way to get feedback and data from what you're doing, right? So that you don't, experiment with incentives and then conclude your part without, contributing to the big chunk of like data-driven global experiment that we are running on ResearchHub. All right. I might butcher your name, Abdul Baki.
Yeah, you can call me Baki.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. I have a question about referral program. Is it still active? And I asked a question on the editors channel. So I guess it's one of the important incentive for the newcomers, for new users. So I will invite my friends and my colleagues, and I will introduce ResearchHub by saying that it's the main goal is to be the center of the open science, and on the other hand, you can earn research coin. So it's one of the main part of the ResearchHub. So but via through inviting the people, our colleagues to the ResearchHub, I will definitely mention the referral program. So I guess we should be clear about the program. Is it active? So what they can earn, when they will receive their rewards. So I guess it's at this point, especially because we want to invite people and keep them in the platform and contribute more to the platform. So if they come and sign up and then contribute, but doesn't get their rewards, so this could be a little bit disappointment for them. So yeah, this is what I want to be clear about it actually.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Baki. So I think we built the referral program out maybe like a year ago initially. And one of the issues were that it was heavily spammed. So a lot of users like just made a bunch of different Google accounts and then would invite themselves or like their circle of friends. And yeah, it wasn't well thought through from a product perspective in order to prevent some of the malicious type of gaming activities that happened in Web3 projects. So I believe we turned it off. I think it's off right now. Like there's no referral bonuses. We have a way to basically approve authors. So like if someone's authored a paper, they can claim a paper and like say, hey, I'm this person who wrote this paper. I think our plan was to turn it back on if you referred people who had written papers that were published in ResearchHub. So basically like trying to create incentives to recruit active academics in the real world. I agree, though, that referrals are like a huge, like low barrier way to grow a project, and that we should have this figured out. I think the information that's on the website now is out of date. So I'll speak with the engineering team and make sure that that gets removed or updated to whatever the current situation is. And then we'll also prioritize trying to build something to, like, if we refer authors of papers, having the referrer receive like some kind of token bonus for that, because that's a super good strategy to help us grow. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas about how you think the referral program could be structured in such a way that it incentivizes people who actually want to contribute and de-incentivizes people who want to game the system, also feel free to reach out.
The other thing too on that topic, feel free to tag any of ResearchHub's engineers when you have feedback, like either in the bug reports channel or the editors channel. I'll post this just so that you can see like their actual names, but it's Kobe Atias, Thomas Vu, and Patrick Liu. I'll post that again just to make it easier. But if you ever need feedback directly on like a feature or a bug that you're experiencing, feel free to tag them, and they're pretty responsive, so they should get back to you shortly.
We have a few questions, and Todd, I think you were first.
Oh yeah, thank you. Just in regard to just like posting, and one question is, let's say your hub doesn't have much activity going on, what are your thoughts on that? And then also posting in areas that you're not officially kind of trained in, but you have interest in. What's the general kind of guidelines there?
Yeah, so that's another great question. I think a lot of hubs are kind of not super active at the moment. We have like 3 or 4 where there's a decent amount of stuff going on, but some of the niche hubs I think are pretty lonely. So with that being said, I think the best things that can be done are posting papers, obviously, and trying to add commentary that's inviting. So like if you share a paper, like a layman's summary that can like kind of attract discussion, because I think that's the #1 thing that makes a hub more likely to like have new users sign up and contribute, is like, hey, I can participate in this like community and get responses and feel good when other people like upvote my criticisms or like analytics of the paper. So yeah, that's a long way of saying I think comments are super useful. Also, kind of tying back to what Baki said, like referring others that you think would be interested in discussing these papers with you. So like we all have networks, and then there's tons of online communities. Ricardo has some thoughts on how to best like leverage these. And also Wafa is pretty good at Twitter, so she can help us like get some of the like signal boosted on existing social media platforms, where if you see a paper that you really want to talk with other people, we can have some like repeatable playbooks in order to bring other people in from different like online sources. So yeah, I think two things: adding comments and then trying to find other people that would be interested in discussing these papers with you. Did that answer your full question? Was there another piece of it?
Oh no, that's very helpful. Thank you. The other piece is just going into like other subject areas that are interest to you, but I'm not, officially like trained in that area. That's not my day to day. But if you comment on those areas, is that okay, or is that you want to stay in your hub or?
No. Feel free to comment wherever you want. It's up to the editors of that hub to like maintain quality. So if they feel that it doesn't maintain quality, they'll probably remove it and then reach out to you. We'll have a list of all the editors, so like it'll be easy to talk behind the scenes among editors. But yeah, feel free to comment in any hub that you feel interested in. For the editor program itself, your responsibility is just to maintain your hub. So that's like kind of the base, like minimum responsibility. But if you want to participate in others, that would be amazing. So feel free.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Definitely.
All right, Olga is next in line.
Yeah, so I have a question about the content generation. So basically we don't have any like quotas for editors right now, right? Nothing is set in stone, and we are trying to figure out what culture is and how much we are supposed to be posting, commenting, doing hypotheses and stuff like this. But I'm trying to kind of like figure out this quantity versus quality question, because there might be like, let's think about two extremes, right? You can think and you can read and outline the same paper for 2 hours and spend like, I don't know, 6 hours just posting free papers. Or you can be human sparser and like just copy paste the entire Google Scholar in there without even like thinking through it. So I'm just trying to figure out on what, like, where to err, on what side. I would personally kind of caution against posting more of less quality content, because it just makes this culture of just posting things without making any sense. And it's not very inviting. At the same time, when you don't have a lot of papers, your hub is not populated, and it doesn't look great. So what are their thoughts about that?
I mean, so this is an amazing question. This is the number one thing that I'm like most excited about for the first month of the editor program. Is I have no idea what's going to be the best strategy for editors to help grow their hubs. Like, I have a couple hypotheses, you know, just from my experience, like looking at our own metrics and like seeing what helps to recruit users. And they kind of, I think, align with what you said, Olga. Like, that's how I feel. But I also think to a certain degree, like the best strategy here is to just let every editor do what they think is best. Like, let's just have a bunch of individuals do whatever they individually think is the best strategy. And then in a month, we'll be able to come back and look at who had the most success, like who is able to grow their hubs, you know, in the most sustainable fashion. And then we'll be able to use that evidence to then make recommendations and potentially like inform like roles and requirements. So long way of saying that I don't think that we should bias anybody's kind of activities at the moment. I think we should do the whole gambit, like the whole spectrum of different possible activities, and then like individuals do whatever you personally think is best. And like we'll like reconvene in a month and like, you know, look at the data together, see what's working, what's not working, reconvene a month after that, do the same thing again. And it'll probably realistically take us like 6 to 9 months to have like a repeatable, you know, evidence-based kind of recommendation. But yeah, we'll get there eventually. And the way we get there the best is by having diversity of strategy initially, and then kind of whittling it down to what seems to be working.
Yeah, I mean, we will review the metrics month after month, but we will not review it, you know, like in a dumb way where we just look at the numbers, right? So if you're the least performing person just based on numbers, but then you have excellent commentary and, you know, users love you and stuff like that, obviously we're not going to, you know, read too much into that. All right, Yashar, you're next.
So I just wanted to throw out this idea that might be a little bit controversial, but maybe kind of it would help with the outreach efforts of ResearchHub. And this is a problem that I generally face myself, and I always thought that it would be great to have a space where you could do such things too. And that would be like a co-author section that the people who are involved in this community that could post their ideas or the papers that they are in the midst of producing or they want to start, and they don't have the expertise around a kind of in people in their own circle. And then through that, you could kind of bring some people to find collaborators, to find data, to find theory that they would be able to plug in together. And then probably you could bring in more contribution from the outsiders, where they also can get incentivized by sharing their own research on the platform. And I know some people would be very, very possessive about the ideas that they have for papers that they work on, but I'm pretty sure there is this niche of researchers who would be interested in kind of laying out in the open the ideas that they have and kind of bank on getting co-authors on those projects.
It's an amazing thought. I actually had a call with Satvik earlier this morning, and he kind of suggested something very similar where, have you guys ever heard of Kaggle? Kaggle's like this data science website that was acquired by Google a couple years ago. But essentially, there are these data sets, and machine learning engineers will create algorithms in order to like find cool stuff within it, and then people vote, and like you earn karma points essentially. And so the people who are on the leaderboard at Kaggle all get like $400,000 jobs at big tech companies as data analysts. So there's this element of like, you can demonstrate your like ability as like an academic professional through contributions, you know, on Kaggle or ResearchHub. And so, yeah, I totally agree that this is like an amazing value prop. I think there are a bunch of different ways that I could see this applying. Our next feature that we're about to release is an electronic lab notebook, which is sort of like a scientific Google Docs, where people can work together on like collaboratively editing scientific manuscripts, all the way from micropublications to like actual like scientific papers. So this is definitely something where we can position it in a way that people who are using this in an open fashion, like we can ask them like what type of collaborators they're looking for, maybe influence the feeds of those potential collaborators in order to see the project, like try and help them with exposure from like their actual day-to-day research content that they're sharing in the open. There's a lot of directions we could take that, but I totally agree that like the ability to connect people that you know, need each other in order to produce knowledge is super cool. And there's ways that I think we can do that in like the pretty short term.
And I just wanted to add to your last comment about creating this workplace for people to collaborate on the platform. I think that would be very helpful to keep people inside the platform. And so long as they are there, I think you increase the chances of interaction with the other types of content in the platform. Thank you.
All right, next up, Nick.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great. I have a just a feature suggestion possibly that could help facilitate or help incentivize engagement on the site. I'm not sure if this would be the conversation to propose that, but I didn't see this on the site and I thought it might help. So one case I was thinking of is, let's say there is an interesting paper, but it doesn't have any comments yet. And somebody may want to keep tabs on what happens there, but they might be afraid of making that first move. So I think it'd be neat if there was a feature where you could subscribe to notifications for that paper. So then it could create this sort of ever evolving where it's somebody posts something, you get looped in, and it can kind of so you can keep tabs on it as that discussion progresses forward.
Yeah, it's an amazing idea. It's funny because we actually got a anonymous email yesterday with somebody who suggested that exact same thing. And we talked about it a little bit internally, like where you could bookmark papers, almost like in a citation manager kind of way, where you could like say, hey, this is, you know, in my collection of following X topic. And then you could have a feed of like all of the commentary or activity on papers that you bookmarked. So this is definitely something on our radar, which would for sure provide value. So very much appreciate you kind of speaking up and saying it, because the more time that it happens, the faster we'll prioritize it versus like Ethereum login or like some of these other things we're thinking about. I could also see this extending to users themselves. So like maybe I love all of Anton's comments and like I just want to subscribe to Anton in order to like see like everything that he does and maybe even the papers that he subscribes to, so I can know what he's reading in order to like stay up to date in his field. So yeah, I think some of these like social features will be built in the next year, and like prioritizing which ones will come from basically everyone here telling us what they want the most. So yeah, if it's a feature that you really want, make as much noise as you can about it in the community Slack and try and get as much people to like react positively to it. And that will influence like our engineering team and how they're thinking about prioritizing feature development.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next up, Max.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm meeting most of you for the first time. So I'm Max. I'm an internist rheumatologist at Hopkins in Baltimore. Very new to ResearchHub in the community, but love what I'm seeing. First off, I just want to second everything that you guys just said right now is I think incredibly important. You know, like a lot of my colleagues are on Twitter. I like papers, so I don't forget about them. I go back to my likes to find the paper, you know, like naively. So any kind of follow function like that, love the idea of following specific editors or people as well and be able to see what they produce. I think this is vital, right? This is what people want to feel engaged in the community. I wanted to come back to something that was discussed earlier, and maybe this was tackled yesterday in the call that I actually wasn't able to make, but a little bit of the hub structure and how to support young new hubs that are generated, because I think it takes a little time to draw people into specific hubs if they haven't existed before. My sense is that we have, you know, several layers of hubs, that some that span multiple fields and then very like subspecialty hubs within a field. So for me, that would be medicine, internal medicine, and then there are 30 subspecialties within internal medicine, right? So you can imagine that the number of users, especially in a young platform, like drops off significantly. So it would be important to link those hubs, right? So like for me as a rheumatologist, I'm equally interested in what happens in the medicine hub, and it is part of the medicine or internal medicine hub. So it would be good whatever is posted in rheumatology is actually replicated and automatically posted in medicine and internal medicine, so that other people that are not part of the new hub actually get exposed to it. And then you can have more of a synergistic discussion in the larger hubs and draw people into the new smaller hubs. So I think something like that, I don't know how that can be done, but it seems like easy enough to potentially implement, and I think it would be valuable. And similarly, I think that, you know, it would be good to have more than one editor in certain hubs, because early on, a lot of the synergy probably comes from 2 high quality, 3 high quality editors actually talking science and commenting on these papers. It probably would be facilitated to have a bunch of people doing more than one hub, you know, like me doing also oncology or internal medicine and other people doing the same. And then there is like some discussion that maybe generates that high yield content that we're looking for.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's so great to hear people describe some features where it's like, this is exactly how we want it to be. So that's like, we've talked a little bit about nested hubs. Even one of our engineers was working on a project called as1.io, I think, where it's kind of like a Reddit style forum for science, similar to ResearchHub. And he had built like a nested kind of topic structure. And so, yeah, 100% that this is something that we will tackle eventually. Even to add to the idea, we think of like weighted curation. So like in theory, like a internist's upvote should be worth more than a geologist's upvote in the internal medicine hub. And so there are ways to like scale this where like maybe like a rheumatologist has like the, you know, highest weight within the rheumatology hub, has like 3/4 of the highest weight within the internal medicine hub with all the other like internal medicine physicians. And then in the medicine, maybe it's half the weight, but basically like thinking of like keeping track of real world expertise and then allowing that expertise to influence how curation happens. And really ResearchCoin is distributed, I think would be really cool and sort of dependent on that nested hub structure. So yeah, this is definitely something we're thinking about. From a product perspective, it's like a little complicated. So Max, if this is something you're passionate about, I can put you in touch with our engineers who are thinking about it. And like they'll ping you whenever they have thoughts or questions and be able to like build exactly what you'd like. To talk about like the number of editors per hub, I think eventually we'd like to have like, you know, kind of 10 to 20 editors for every hub, kind of just like a standard journal, you know, has an editorial board where there's like a significant number of scientists who are like there to help like guide the journal's progress. With that being said, one question I have for everyone here is the way we've been thinking about the editor program is Brian put out that first tweet like we had, I think, like a pretty amazing response, and we've been able to get like a bunch of talented people like you all into a room helping us grow ResearchHub. So kind of my assumption is that it's worthwhile to not necessarily try and recruit a lot of more editors at this moment, that we should take our time and maybe wait a month or two, like see what works, what doesn't work, solicit feedback, build some software tooling around the editor program. So when we eventually go like full speed marketing, we have it like totally streamlined when it comes to like bringing on new editors, having them get paid, having them understand what ResearchHub is about. And so like very grateful for everyone here, because it's, you know, a little bit of choppy waters that like will eventually smooth out and make it very easy to scale. So that's an assumption that we have, that we should not add more editors at this given moment and then reopen it maybe in a month or two. So curious what everyone thinks about that strategy.
I think that makes sense, but like, could one or two of us handle more than one hub at the moment, for example, just to generate that synergy? You know, it would be better to have two or like, I don't think it's so hard to keep track of 2 or 3 hubs. It might actually help overall, like our mission.
What does everybody think about that? Because that's a piece of feedback that has been super common in the editor interviews. I'd say like at least a third of editors asked to be able to work on multiple hubs. So yeah, does anybody have thoughts here?
My opinion, I think it really depends on like how much like effort you really put into like each specific hub. Like for example, if I want to upload a paper on my hub, I make sure like, you know, read it thoroughly, maybe making a summary, maybe making a comment, and that will take way more time. This basically going back to what Olga said. Like you can put in like a lot of papers, but maybe just the abstract and the authors and the paper. But if you really want to like, you know, go into the paper and maybe like, you know, like put like a couple takeaways, that will definitely take time. So that's obviously dependable on like each of us. But in my case, like already like one hub, it's gonna be like some work. So I think it's like it has to be evaluated on a case by case.
To echo that, that was sort of our assumption too at the beginning, is keep things simple and then like kind of see how people are managing, what's working well, what's not working well. And then like if others wanted more responsibility, like we could add more research coin or something to like manage multiple hubs. But yeah, just based on the feedback from the editor interviews, like a lot of people want to be able to manage multiple hubs. So it's something we're definitely open to.
I think it generally depends on what hubs you want to manage. Because like, for example, in my situation, I'm editor of the health psychology hub, which is like a very niche thing. And theoretically, if I would be also added at the bigger psychology hub, I kind of might have some resources here and there to like read through the comments, look through the things, moderate a little bit. And I'm like tagging the psychology hub on every paper I post anyway, because health psychology is a part of psychology, right? So in this situation, it makes sense because they're kind of like staggered and it doesn't require a lot of attention from you, especially if you are talking about managing a little bit of bigger hub that's already managed by someone. So you have like little helpers around. But yeah, managing independently and being one editor of several hubs, I think might be not as manageable.
What do you think about maybe making like a primary editor or a secondary editor, so that you know that your hub, whatever your hub you're being editor in, is your primary concern, but you're also willing to dabble in other hubs? You're kind of like secondary to you.
Yeah, I think that's good, and also we can frame that with some of the metrics that kind of Scott had drafted up, where you can say, hey, if this is your primary hub, here are some like, you know, kind of bigger metrics that you should meet. But if it's your secondary hub, we're not going to dock you for maybe commenting or, you know, suggesting less or putting more comments in the hypotheses or something like that.
And this is where the nested hubs would be so nice, because then like you could be responsible for the rheumatology hub, but then everyone who's under medicine could be collectively working together to boost the stats of the medicine hub. And so it's almost like a team within a team. And so that's a pretty cool notion. So I'm thinking like the most practical thing to do with this issue, because this is something we could do with no technical development. Like we could just assign people to multiple hubs. Maybe if you feel strongly about this issue, get in touch with Leland, and he'll be able to essentially like make a concise summary of a bunch of different people's opinions, like pro and con, and then we'd be able to essentially vote on it as a community and decide what we want to do moving forward. So yeah, I would refer everyone to Lee who wanted to contribute to that. We could probably come up with something within like a couple weeks and make that change before the end of the month.
All right, and Baki, it's your time.
Yeah, sorry. I have another question about the official email address for editors. Is there any update about it, Patrick, or what do you think about having an official email address for editors? And the other one is that, can we create, or the core team create, an invitation letter so we can use this invitation letter all together to invite our colleagues and friends? Should we do something like this, or?
That we actually check out our shared ALN nodes. If you don't have access, go on Slack and they'll invite you. There is a folder there, not a folder, file called Outreach Strategy. At the bottom of this Outreach Strategy is a draft provided by Patrick that he has been using in reaching out to academics. That maybe we could use that as a template.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Rickard, you go for it.
Yeah, I'll just jump in on this one. Yeah, so there's 3 different drafts basically. One for like an AMA, and the 2 others, like for example, for like suggesting people to come on ResearchHub. For example, there's a paper, one of their papers like claim your paper and so on. So these are really like drafts. So if like for example you have any input that you want to give, like ways in which you can attract more like your peers and so on, like feel free to contact me. We can discuss a little bit and put up another draft. It's totally like under development. So yeah.
Yeah, Patrick, do you have any insight when navigating the comment function on the ELN?
That's a great question. I think that's probably a decent way around the corner. I'd say like 6 weeks ish. We have one engineer working on the ELN right now in order to like have people be able to publish directly to ResearchHub. And then you'd be able to comment on published articles, like inline comments. But like having like a Notion style comment system, we also have on the roadmap. So if you think that's more important than publishing, we could ask Thomas to focus on that. But yeah, it just depends on what you all think is the best thing to do. Baki, about your question with the official ResearchHub email, I think that's pretty interesting. And Lee, that might be another question to get people's temperatures on. I kind of have like 2 different thoughts here. The first is that like researchhub.com email, there's a cost associated with it. So in theory, if we were like, we could do it for the 100 editors we have now. But like if we scaled it in the future, like that could end up getting a little bit pricey just to add people to our G Suite. And like, I think this is almost something that we should experiment when it comes to outreach. Like, does an official ResearchHub email address increase or decrease responses? I almost think one of the cool things about DAOs is that like, it's clearly a community and not necessarily like part of a like for-profit C Corp. And so to me, it's like almost like more compelling if someone's reaching out to me where it's clear that they're, it's not like they're going to extremely directly benefit, from me using it. It's like more of an altruistic ask, I think, coming from like a not at researchhub.com email address. But that's also an assumption on my part. I've had decent success using my own researchhub.com email. So yeah, we could figure that out. We could also do like a ResearchHub DAO G Suite or something, where eventually, like once the token's more liquid, like we could basically help fund that through the DAO. But yeah, it would be interesting to see what works the best, get some data on what actually works the best, and then take a temperature of what every editor wanted in order to make that happen.
So I see Scott and Ricardo talking about using an institutional address. So if you're part of like a university or something like that, like using that, which I think is a solid idea. That's what I'm doing. But the one issue I can think of that, and actually was kind of freaking me out a little bit when I used my institutional address, was if you lose access to that email after you leave the institution. So if that is the case, is it possible to, like, should we go for like the institutional address? And if we do, is it possible to kind of like take your like lifetime reputation and your RSC and things like that and just shift them onto another account? Is that possible on the back end?
Yeah, definitely. So like if you sign up with one email address and you want to switch it to another, we can do that on our back end. So that's no big deal at all. We'd be happy to like make sure the user profile is transitioned appropriately to the new email.
Okay, cool.
All right, and it looks like we are out of questions, and this has been a long, productive meeting. Should we conclude? Any closing remarks, Patrick?
I mean, I just think it's amazing that there are so many talented people here, so invested in this project. Like it's super inspiring for me. Like it's been a pretty long journey so far, and it feels like we're just getting started. So like the energy that I've gotten over the past couple of weeks speaking with everybody is off the charts, and like I'm super grateful for everybody taking the time. And I think we're on the verge of something really cool here that can make a big difference. So yeah, just very grateful. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. The editor interviews are slowing down, so my time's a lot freer. So happy to like jump on a call and help like answer questions or anything. But yeah, this has been amazing. And even we're like 20 minutes over and people are happy to be here and like asking questions and stuff. So yeah, just very stoked to see what happens over the next couple of months. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you all. And please check out the link that I'm going to post in the editor channel at the end of this meeting, okay?
Right. See you all. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
coming.
much. Bye-bye.